Where's hi everybody and welcome to another video. And in advance, my dear friends, I need to apologize if I start coughing once again. I've got the flu and it is Murphy's Laws, right? I have had a lot of ideas for videos in the last couple of days. I've got videos lined up for the next 5 days at least, and I just get sick and I will cough, but I will not edit it out. So this is a review of the new adaptation of the Salem's Lot, and I find myself in a very peculiar position, in a position that I don't find myself in when reviewing an adaptation of one type or another, because usually I like to have the source material freshly in my mind. If there is an adaptation coming out that I even consider checking out, because otherwise you know that I'm not really into adaptations at all. If you know European law, you know that if it were up to me, if I met a genie, and if the genie asked me, what are your 3 wishes? I'd be like, oh, delete all adaptations, kind of. But from time to time, there is an adaptation that I'm willing to check out. And I was interested in the new Salem's Lot, but the problem is I haven't read the book in 15 years. I distinctly remember reading it when I was 16 at secondary school. And that was the time when I was like deep into books by Stephen King. I read all that I could put my hands on at the time. But since then, and of course, in the 15 years, you just forget a lot. So I will be rating and reviewing this film as a standalone film on its own. Of course, I still do remember what the book is about. I remember the promise that it is basically simply and simplistically said, Dracula in Maine. Dracula in New England, in the United States of America. It was even, I think, the inception of the idea came from a conversation, if I remember correctly, that Stephen King had. And if I'm wrong, please feel free to correct me in the comments. But I think I've read or seen a documentary somewhere when he was talking about the fact that he was talking to his wife about Dracula, and she was saying something like, why did he move to London? Why didn't he move like to a place like our town here, little town in New England, where he wouldn't attract as much attention? There's not that many people. It would be, you know, quite easy for him to take over the town, so on and so forth. And then he said to himself, oh right, that's a good idea. And so this idea kind of sprung from it. And if you watch the film, all in all, I have to say that it is, as far as its quality goes, on the same level as the majority of films like made in the last 20 years, which is okay. I know that many people like to take things to extremes, and so they are saying that that something's either very bad, like super duper horrible, flop, the worst thing that happened since like Second World War, or something needs to be like Citizen Kane or The Godfather. I mean, it's just very rarely do we encounter things like that. Either that the thing is absolutely unwatchable, or that it is something like, I don't know, like The Big Lebowski, right? Or as far as horror movies go, The Thing by John Carpenter. It's okay. It's an okay film. It's a very good vampire film that Stephen King fans will enjoy. I think that vampire fans will most certainly enjoy. I did like because before I watched it, I was thinking to myself, are they going to set it in the time of the book, when the book is set, or are they going to put it in like modern times? Are they going to cast some famous actors? Are they going to include some like modern stuff? No, it's a very watchable film. It's a film that you can watch and not think about the modern world at all. It is set in the time, now I can't remember, was it set in the 80s? I think 70s, 80s, I think it was set in. And then of course we follow the writer who comes back to Salem's Lot where he was born, and then his parents perished in a automobile accident when he was 9, and then he came back right in the middle of Mr. Barlow and his minion, his servant. It's like Renfield. I don't remember the name of like the associate, because they opened like this antique store, right? And then Barlow like had people transport his box, his coffin, into that big house on the hill. It's just like Dracula did, right? So Dracula was transported on a ship to London, and of course, quite famously, you know, the Demeter, the ship, all the crew got annihilated by Dracula on the way to London. And then, you know, he set his like headquarters at the Carfax Abbey. Here it's not London, it is in Carfax Abbey. It's an old house in Salem's Lot in Maine, in the United States of America. And there, gradually, he like started infecting the inhabitants of the Salem's Lot with, you know, vampirism, making them his slaves. There is, of course, as I said, the character of Dracula, which is Mr. Barlow. There is the character of Renfield. Then there is the character of Van Helsing, kind of. There was the teacher. And he had a, like, it was a very likable character. But then, of course, you've got the couple, the main couple. You've got the writer and his girlfriend. I mean, you could say that he was like a Harker, but wasn't really. But the truth of the matter is that the film was nicely paced. I liked the effects. I thought that the one thing that the film suffered from is the visualization of the Barlow character, because most of the vampires were done very well. You couldn't really tell that some things were tweaked on the computers, CGI, you know, like those eyes. Of course, the fangs were real. They looked very believable, as well as when they were holding the crosses, when they were defending themselves from the vampires. I think that this must have been like a practical effect, that they made like some sort of glowing torch-like crosses, and that looked very good. I liked the scenes, of course. You know, it's a horror film, Stephen King, spooky season. We need scenes in darkness, you know, like going with a candle and then hearing something, and then, you know, you spy something in the corner, and then the vampire appears. It's in that aspect, it's a very stereotypical horror film, which doesn't insult, which doesn't disappoint, but also, if you want something, if you believe or belong in the group of people that want something awesome and revolutionary each and every single time, you are not going to get that. You very rarely get that. So this film was just okay. It was just alright. But to get to my point about the character of Barlow, it was very clearly CGI. I believe they could have done it with makeup much better. I think that if they really went out of their way and did it in like practical effects and makeup properly, it would have had a much better effect on the spectator, on the watcher, on the viewer. And so that's really, it was, there were a couple of like quite funny scenes, especially with the Doctor. The Doctor was a funny character. I enjoyed the character of the Doctor, especially when they were like making her believe that there are actually vampires in Salem's Lot, and she didn't believe them at first. And then they went to the morgue. There was quite an amusing and funny scene. So there isn't really much that I can say about the film, other than that it was a decent film to watch in the spooky season in October. You know, just on a chill Friday when you've got the flu, with a cup of hot tea. Doesn't insult. It's a good film. I recommend that. Will I rewatch the film? Probably not. But what it did is that it made me want to reread the book. So for what I can remember, it's not even like my favorite Stephen King book. That would probably have to be either some of his short stories or The Needful Things. I remember loving Needful Things a lot. But I will most definitely want to reread the book, because I think that, especially as far as older things by Stephen King, they're worth read. Alright, so let me know in the comments down below what you think, and that will be all. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm out of here.